everybody, it's Serena, and today I found myself in yet another conversation about niching. You might have heard of being called niching. Either way, however you pronounce it, this conversation is super important to have, particularly for people who are in the early stages of developing their business. Now, because we have such a focus on building our followings and building our list and making sure that we get known by people, we often have this kind of mentality that we need more. And we do, but we need more of the right people. A lot of times with my business coaching clients, I find that they find themselves in a state of fear or at least a little bit of apprehension because they have this story that if they start to niche down, if they get a little bit too focused and a little bit too narrow in their scope of who it is that they're having conversations with, that it means they're going to be leaving people out. They're going to be leaving people behind, and they're going to narrow the pool of people that they're able to target. And they're worried like that those sensations and those feelings of lack really start to strike kind of some fear in their heart. So I really want to have this conversation, and I want to start off with an analogy that I give to all of my clients whenever this conversation comes up. When you sit in a crowded cafe and you're sitting across the table from one person, let's say it's a friend of yours, and you're having like a really great, really engaging conversation. There might be laughter, the voices might get a little louder from time to time, but you're really connecting. You're having this really wonderful conversation, and you're talking to just the person who is at the table directly across from you. Now, if we apply that metaphor into niching, that person across the table from us, instead of it being a close friend, is like our dream client, our soulmate client, our ideal client avatar, whatever language you want to use. That's the person who is sitting directly across the table from you. And because you have this real intimate knowledge of them, because you have a relationship formed, because there's a lot of depth, you're not just talking at the surface, you're able to engage in this really deep, beautiful way. But if it's a crowded cafe, that means that there are other people that are around you. And that means that they're able to eavesdrop on your conversation. And particularly when you're having a really good time and things are getting really engaging, and it might get a little bit louder, a little bit more, just might spark some curiosity. And when those things happen, you're going to start to draw more and more attention away from the person who's maybe directly across the table from you, who's still deeply engaging. But now people who you maybe weren't talking to are getting curious about what it is you're talking about. And they might even jump into the conversation. So this is a super weird analogy. A few weeks ago, I was having coffee with a colleague of mine, and we were having this really awesome conversation. Our conversations are usually like 3 to 5 hours long. It was ridiculous. And the subject of this coloring book that I got about farting animals came up, and her and I are laughing about it. And this guy who's sitting beside us, definitely not part of our conversation, but he could hear everything, he jumped in and started to engage. So this would be an example of, even though the conversation wasn't for him, he still got kind of pulled in. He actually really couldn't help himself because we were having such a great time. It was really engaging. And when he heard something about farting animals and coloring books, he was sort of like, I have to pay attention now. What are these people talking about, right? And your marketing is exactly the same thing. So you want to make sure that the conversations that you're having and the dialogue that you're creating in your copy, in your social posts, that it is talking to that one person directly across the table from you. But when you're doing that, even though you're having an intimate conversation with one person, there are still people who are on the peripheral who might be eavesdropping in and saying, that's really interesting. What's going on over there? So even though you're not targeting them directly, you're still able to make an impact if they're the intended people. Your words and your message will always reach the people that it's intended to. And so I really want you to keep that in mind when you're in this place that you're not leaving anybody out. I know that is particularly sensitive, not just from the financial place, but a lot of the people I work with are healers and they're light workers, and they're really in that place of divine service. And so having grown up, they've often been the weirdos and the outsiders and the people who were cast out. So they're particularly sensitive to the idea of like creating an other. You're not doing that. You're not leaving anyone out. You're not leaving anyone behind. But what you are doing is making sure that you're having a conversation with the person who needs to hear you most. And if it happens to expand beyond that one person into more people, then that's a blessing. But if you start by casting a super, super wide net, you just end up blending into all the white noise of the internet. And the last thing that you want to do is create an experience that somebody is just happy to scroll on past. everything that you create is to help somebody self-select. So with the words and the images that you use in your post and the way that you show up with yourself, you're helping them say, yes, she's talking to me. Yes, me too. Oh my God, I see myself in that. And that's the way that you start to build relationships. And that's the way that you make an impression that goes well beyond one social post into filling up your programs, filling up your one-on-one services, and so on. So if this is something that you would like to talk about, then by all means, please jump in my DMs. Let's have a conversation about how Sacred Soul Mentorship for your business can help get you to the next level. Okay, have a really beautiful rest of your day. Take care.